Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. A little bonus video this week. As I talked about yesterday in Overwatch Weekly, I was going to talk about the tournament thing that's coming to the Overwatch League because I think it's a very good thing to spend some time talking about because it's pretty in-depth and I didn't really do it yesterday because of the Sinatra thing, so we're going to talk about it. So I'll have a link in the description to the Overwatch League tournament announcement thing. So if you want to read along with me or just read it yourself, it'll be there. But let's take a look. So I'm just going to kind of read through everything and talk about it. So during the first 3 weeks of May, all 20 teams will play qualifier matches. 3 per team in North America and 4 per team in Asia. Team records, map scores, and standard tiebreakers in those qualifier matches will determine team seeding in 2 regional tournaments in North America, May 22nd through 24th, and Asia, May 23rd through 24th. Both tournaments have a combined $225,000 prize pool with the following tiers. Tournament champions, $40,000. Second place teams, $20,000. Third and fourth place teams, $5,000. And each tournament win per team is $5,000 in addition to their placement prizing. And the teams competing in each region for the May qualifying tournament and matches are as such. In North America, there are 13 teams. The Atlanta Reign, the Boston Uprising, Dallas Fuel, Florida Mayhem, Houston Outlaws, LA Gladiators, LA Valiant, Paris Eternal, Philadelphia Fusion, San Francisco Shock, Toronto Defiant, Washington Justice, and the Vancouver Titans. Now, the Vancouver Titans, of course, had been in South Korea for their last 2 matches that they played, and now they have since come back to North America. What? What are the Vancouver Titans doing? Number one, this is not the point of this video, but there was all this talk about the Vancouver Titans players being disappointed, kind of taking the Titans info off of their bio and all this other stuff. I don't like what the Titans are doing. I don't, if you look at how many times they've traveled across the Pacific Ocean this year alone, it's about 5 times, if not more. That's a lot. That's ridiculous. A team shouldn't have to do that for nothing. And I think that basically what's going on is really, really poor management decisions that are making the players hate what's going on. And I think that's just really, really, really odd. And I don't understand what the Vancouver Titans are doing and if they even have their players' best interests in mind, but who knows. Then in Asia, we have the 7 remaining teams: the Chengdu Hunters, the Guangzhou Charge, the Hangzhou Spark, the London Spitfire, the New York Excelsior, the Shanghai Dragons, and the Seoul Dynasty. We haven't seen the London Spitfire in a while. So that is going to be interesting to see. I don't know how good the London Spitfire are going to be. I think they're going to be an interesting team to watch when we do start seeing them again. I mean, they're currently in 6th place, despite having played 5 matches, and they haven't played since week 5, if that. So it's funny. The London Spitfire still doing as well as they are, but we'll see them when they go into action again. I believe they play again the weekend of the 9th and the 10th, I think. Yes. Their next match is May 9th. That is when they play a match again. So I'm excited. I really do want to see London play again. London was a very interesting team. They had been playing pretty well before everything had gone down. I mean, they were kind of beating some of these middle, low Atlantic teams. I'm curious to see where they stack up against some of these other teams. Anyway, let's move on to the tournament rules, and this is a shared tournament rules. Hero pools suspended for all tournament matches. All heroes will be available. Matches are first to 3 map wins until the finals, which will be first to 4. The higher seeded teams pick the first map. The losing team of each map after that picks the next map in the series. So the loser of map 1 picks map 2, loser of map 2 picks map 3, etc., etc. And in case of draws, the team that picked the previous map picks again. These are very normal, standard rules. The interesting thing, of course, being the suspension of hero pools, which I 100% like because I hate hero pools. I think they're an awful idea, and I think that they have gotten to be pretty bad at this point in time. But I'm going to talk about those probably more in another video. I have a video planned about that in particular, so we'll get there when we get there. But let's take a look at these brackets, because the way that they work is very interesting. So there's 2 different brackets for the North America one. So I'll put up the first one right now, and you can see the different things you got going on there. So the specific rules for the North America tournament. So qualification, the 12 versus 13 seed match does not count for prizing. So this first one on the left that you see. And then you get to the knockouts. The 5 through 7 seeds get to pick their opponent, with the 5 seed selecting first. So these teams all basically just play. It's not a bracket at this point in time. It's really the knockout round. So if we want to take current North America stuff into account, right, based on where we have teams right now in North America, just to give you an idea of what's going on. Your number 1 would be Philadelphia. Your number 2 would be San Francisco. Then it would be Atlanta, Paris, Florida, Vancouver, Gladiators, Defiant, Fuel, Outlaws, Valiant, Justice, and Uprising. So the Justice and the Uprising would play in that first match on the left side, right, to see who would get in. Then you would have your 5 seed pick, which in this case is the Florida Mayhem. So the Florida Mayhem would pick, and they would probably choose the winner of Justice Uprising. Then your 6 seed would pick, which in this case is the Vancouver Titans. So they would probably pick, say, the Valiant. Then the Gladiators would pick, and they would likely play the team with the next worst record, which would be the Houston Outlaws. And then the final team is the Toronto Defiant. They don't have an ability to pick because there's only one opponent left for them, and that's the Dallas Fuel. Okay, those matches are played. I'm just going to, in this scenario, assume no upsets. All the better team wins. We move on to the second part of the bracket, the second part of the tournament, which I will put the bracket up there now. In the quarterfinals, the 1 through 4 seed get an automatic bye to this round, and the 1 through 3 seeds get to pick their opponent from advancing teams, with the 1 seed selecting first. So in this case, we have the 1 seed, which would be the Philadelphia Fusion. So they would pick from the best teams from the previous round, right? So in this case, basically your top 8 teams would be moving on. So that would be in this round, you'd have the Fusion, the Shock, the Reign, and the Eternal, who all advanced to this round, and then the winners from the previous round, which would be in this hypothetical situation, the Mayhem, the Titans, the Gladiators, and the Defiant. I know I'm not putting anything in, but this is just the way it works. Maybe a little confusing to follow, but hypothetical situation, what we're talking about here. So the Philadelphia Fusion, as the number 1 seed, get to pick the opponent. So they would likely pick the weakest opponent left, which in this case would be the Toronto Defiant. Then you'd have the 2 seed pick. That would be the San Francisco Shock. They would pick the next weakest team there, hypothetically. So they'd pick the LA Gladiators. And then the 3 seed would pick, which is the Atlanta Reign. And they would pick the Florida Mayhem. They'd pick the Vancouver Titans. And then the Paris Eternal, as the 4 seed, would get paired up with the Florida Mayhem. And then from there, it's just a normal bracket. Semifinals and finals are fixed matchups based on progression through the bracket. So you have 1 through 4, or 1 plays whoever they play. They win. They play the winner of the 4 seed game. The 3 seed game plays the winner of the 2 seed game, and et cetera, et cetera. It's a normal bracket at that point in time. So it's a little weird with opponent picking, but I like that they're not doing the stupid thing they were doing last season, where it was like every round the bracket got reseeded. I hated that. I think it's so dumb because it basically means like upsets have to be ridiculous, like we saw with Shanghai in stage 3. Like they actually had the ridiculous upsets where they beat everybody, right? They beat the 3 seed, then they beat the 2 seed, then they beat the 4 seed, and it's like, yeah, that's something impressive that you have to do. So the NA bracket is a little confusing, but essentially, I hope it makes sense. If you're confused, like I said, read the article and may clear some things up for you. But that's it for the North America bracket. Let's move on to the Asia bracket. So I'll throw it up here. And with 7 teams, it's a little weird, and you can kind of see what is going on with it based on how it works. So all 7 teams qualify with no qualification match. In the quarterfinals, the 2 and 3 seeds get to pick their opponent, with the 2 seed selecting first. So in this situation, right, you have your 7 Asia teams. So if we take a look, right, you'd have Shanghai as the number 1, New York as the number 2, Seoul as the number 3, London as the number 4, Hangzhou as the number 5, Guangzhou as the number 6, and Chengdu as the number 7. So, in the first round, the number 1 seed doesn't play in the quarterfinals because of the amount of teams that they have. So they get an automatic bye to the semifinals. So the 2 seed would pick first, which is New York. So they would pick Chengdu because they're the weakest team. The 3 seed would pick next, and that is the Seoul Dynasty. So they pick the next weakest, which in this case is the Guangzhou Charge. This is just by record. And then the 4 seed gets to automatically play whoever is left, which is the London Spitfire playing the Hangzhou Spark. The winner then of the 4 seed match goes on to play the 1 seed in the semifinals, while the winner of the 3 seed match and the winner of the 2 seed match would go on to play each other in the semifinals and then the finals. So this bracket a little more straightforward because it's 7 teams. It's a little weird. If there was one more team in Asia and one less team in North America, it would be much easier to follow and understand what's going on. You'd be like, 8-team bracket, 12-team bracket. Much easier to do an 8-team bracket and a 12-team bracket than a 13 and a 7. But they have a format, and it works for the most part. So, yeah, the Asian one thing is pretty simple. But like I said, if you want to learn more about it, follow the link in the description. Where it gets very interesting, though, and where I have my biggest issue with this bracket, or with this tournament, is that the May qualifier matches count in the overall season standings, but individual tournament matches do not count, right? So the matches that they're playing for the first, 3 weeks of May will count for their overall season standings, right? But once a tournament starts, those tournament matches don't count towards, if you're the Philadelphia Fusion and you've won and you win every game in May, right? So then you win your 3 games, so you end up at 12-1. And then you lose round 1 of the tournament, you're still 12-1. Where it gets interesting, though, is that the top 4 finishers in each region's tournament will earn a fixed number of bonus wins that do count in the standings toward playoffs qualification. So if you win the tournament, either one, you get 3 wins. If you get second place, you get 2 wins. And if you get third or fourth, you get 1 win. Now, in North America, that is a much less, that's not really a problem. But like in Asia, for example, right? If you end the Asia region, right? If you are the number 1 seed, you're guaranteed an additional win. Because there's only 7 teams and you're automatically in the semifinals, you're automatically in the top 4. So you automatically get at least a win. And you probably end up with more anyway, but I digress, right? In North America where you have 13 teams, right? The top 4 have to actually like fight really for their way to get there. But the other thing with Asia is you're going to have teams like with Asia. We look at the Asia region right now, right? We kind of say that there's 3 teams that are really good, that are really at the top, and then there's the other 4. So one of those 4 teams who probably doesn't really deserve wins is going to be getting wins similar to teams like Atlanta or Paris, who we are very high on, while a team like Hangzhou or Guangzhou or London is going to get wins when we don't really think those teams are that good. They're not bad per se, but they're not that good. They're not the dominant teams that we're seeing in North America in some cases, or teams who are just below those dominant teams. They're teams that are like, they're average, they're all right. So this wins thing is really, really, really weighted when you get to Asia, and not very weighted when you get to North America. The system will work much better in North America, but in Asia, you're gonna get teams who will probably, if these tournaments keep going, you're gonna get teams who squeak by in playoffs just because the region is not that good, and they just get additional. They keep accumulating one additional win each tournament because they keep getting 4th place because they're the 4th best team, even though that doesn't mean they're better than anybody else. So this tournament structure continues once we get into June. I'd be interested to see if things change. I'd be interested to see if we get to a point where teams will all be together again, because I think that would be super telling, and I think it'd be very cool to see teams all in one region again. Because I think the problem is we're never going to see some of these matchups happen until we get the season playoffs, and by then, who knows what happens. If we get the season playoffs and New York is still in Asia, and San Francisco and Philly and whatnot are still in North America, well, what happens? Shanghai's over in Asia and New York's over in Asia. What, they just play for a title match in Asia and then there's a title match in North America? It doesn't make any sense, right? And I think you have to have more stuff in place, hopefully in the future when things start to reopen, where teams will be able to actually play against each other in North America, where everybody will be able to play, not just the North American teams. The article also has the schedule at the bottom, but I'm not going to go into detail about the schedule. You can check that out on your own time. Overall, I think the tournament is an interesting idea. I think it's a good idea, but I personally don't really need the tournament structure. I just like the season structure. I just like seeing teams play. But I understand it's esports, and tournaments are a big part of esports. It's very different. I'm a traditional sports fan, so tournaments in the middle of seasons aren't really something that I'm particularly used to seeing. But I think it's interesting, and I think it'll be something that I'll definitely be following and looking at, seeing what it shows us when there's no hero pools. I think that is interesting because I don't like hero pools, and I think not having hero pools will be fun for once. Yeah, I'm interested to see what teams can do when they aren't limited at all with what they can play. But that's everything I have for you today. Let me know your thoughts on the tournaments in the comments down below. And if you want more videos like this in the future, consider liking and subscribing. But that's everything. So thank you once again. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Hope you're all staying safe and healthy and indoors. And I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.